In today's video, we're going to be making this animation. And I'll leave a link to GJV, which is what I'm using to render this, in the description. So, right here on Blender, we're going to start by selecting everything, pressing A, X, delete, and we're going to go Shift A, and we're going to create a cube. We're going to move it up on the Z axis just a little bit to where it's flush with the floor, and go right about there. Okay. Now we're going to go Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and we're going to do S on the, well, we're just going to do S. We're going to make it about that size, move it up on the Z axis to about there, and this part's fairly simple. We're going to go to Physics, we're going to go to Collision on the cube, and we're going to set the collision to, actually, we don't have to set anything on the collision. Now let's go to the plane, we'll set it to cloth. We don't really have to do anything else here either, other than set self collisions, otherwise, obviously, it won't collide with itself and it'll be going through itself, which we do not want. So, now that that's all done, let's play the animation. That didn't do anything. Why? Because this is all one piece. So to make it into multiple different pieces, we need to subdivide it a lot of times. Like, actually probably one more time than that, where it's pretty much completely orange. I don't recommend doing too many unless you have a really good computer because, well, I'm going to set this down to 20 for a second. Because, okay, this isn't terrible, but it's still quite laggy, so if you do a lot of subdivisions, especially if you check quality steps, it gets to be quite the lag. Oh goodness. So I'm going to set this to be about 100, and it still looks all meshy and kind of like, I don't know a good way to explain it. It just looks like you would go up and touch it and it'd be extremely cubey. So to fix that, it's quite simple. We right click and go shade smooth, maybe? There. Okay. Hopefully, now, whenever this finishes, it'll be much, much quicker to see. Which, on the topic of this being very slow, there is an easy way to fix that by going down to Cache on the cloth and clicking on that. Oh, it's so laggy. And this is like baking a fluid simulation. It's pretty much just saving it all to a cache, so it doesn't have to continuously keep rendering it every time I mess with the setting. Like, shading it smooth shouldn't make it go like this just at an FPS of 2.8. So by putting it all into a cache, also known as baking it, it's going to make it much, much smoother without the problem. However, if you do change something major, you won't be able to see it on the cloth until you remove the bake and re-add it. But when you're doing just simple things like shading it and all that, it's much quicker. However, I'm going to need to pause this so I can bake it. Because baking actually, I probably shouldn't bake it because the next bit requires some big changes, but as you can see, this animation, it's fine. It's kind of messed up, but it'll go and it's going to fall on top of this cube. Fairly simple, which I'm going to wait for this to finish. There we go. Now you can see cloth falls on it, but if you remember in that other animation, it didn't just fall like this. It was connected to a rod of some sorts that was moving around. So to do this, we can reset this. Now this is where baking comes in handy, but since we're messing with different things, it'll be much easier to not bake it. But we need to make a new cylinder, like I already have. We're going to move it up. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees. That's not the right axis. Rotate 90 degrees on the y-axis, x-axis, We're going to scale this down quite a bit, maybe to there, and we're going to scale it on the x-axis to be just a tiny bit larger than the cloth itself. And then we're going to move this on the y-axis to about there, and then we're going to move it on the z-axis. Wow, that was fairly close to perfect. Let's move it down just a little bit. There we go. So now, everything looks just like that animation did, except, actually, yeah, looks just like that animation did, but it doesn't stick to the rod. So, we're going to make this into a collision, and it kind of pushes away, but it still doesn't stick to the rod. So, to do this, we're going to need to press tab, and we're going to need to do edge select, and we're going to go on the Z, and we're going to select that whole edge right there. And we're going to go down here to Object Data Properties, create a new vertex group, and click Assign with all of those selected. So now, if we go back to press tab, and we make sure we have the cloth selected, and we go to Shape, and we see Pin Group. This pin group can be set to that group we just created, and now, as you can see, it's pinned to this object. But the unfortunate part is, I can sit here and move this around, and the cloth's just going to stay pinned to that one spot. So it's not actually going to follow that rod. So to fix this, what we need to do is we need to go click on this plane and make sure these vertices are selected, and we're going to shift click onto this rod, and we're going to do Control P, and we're going to do set parent to object. Now, when we run this, it all looks the exact same, but if we grab onto this rod and we move the rod, the cloth follows the rod. And since we made it a collision object, it's moving a little fast, and the subsample steps aren't very high, meaning the quality won't be very good. But it will move and try and collide with this rod. But it's not going to do a great job, and oh, it just messed up because I tried to move it back. But we can create a simple animation with this that'll look much, much better when we bake it by pausing this, going over here, taking this rod, going I, insert a keyframe of location, and move 20 frames forward, and moving it over to now the cloth will not follow it, which is completely fine. We don't want it to follow right now because the animation isn't actually running. So we're just going to enter a couple keyframes. It's going to try and follow it there. And we're going to do location. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the cloth. We're going to scroll down, and we're going to click, we're actually going to make this go down to the same length as the animation. And we're going to click Bake. This shouldn't take terribly long, but we're just going to quickly skip to the end. Okay, it's done baking. And as you can see, ooh, so it slices right through right there because it's going so quick. And I don't like how quick it's going, but we can fix that in just a second. First, we got to address the issue of it slicing through right here, because that's not actually slicing through the cloth. Because if we zoom into this cube here, you can see that the cloth is just going through the cube and messing up. So to fix this, it's actually quite simple. Scroll up, make sure the cloth's selected, scroll up. We gotta delete the bake first of all, and scroll up and do quality steps, and change that to about 20 to 25, which is going to drastically change how quick this moves, because I'm going like 0.2 frames a second here. But it'll be much, much better once we bake it. So I'm gonna quickly save this, and we'll go from there. Alright, looks like our bake is done. So it didn't tear through. It is going a little fast, but it did not tear through the cube. That is perfect. And that means we did it right. So you can see it is a little occasionally weirdly messed up on the back. So I didn't actually show it here. But that's just because it's colliding with this object and trying to collide with everything else. And yeah, this is just a quick cloth simulation, which is a little quick. But we can create some simple materials by clicking on this rod, new material, glass BSDF, roughness 0. That's pretty much it. Go to cloth. This can be changed to be whatever. It doesn't have to be anything specific. I'm just creating some quick things just to match the other one. Glass BSDF, roughness 0. Now, go to render view. It looks absolutely horrible because we're in Eevee, not Cycles. Also, because we don't have a light, which we need an area light to make this look at least somewhat good. We're going to rotate it about here. We're going to move this on the x-axis about here. And we're going to go down to light options. And we're going to increase the power quite a bit. And increase the size. And let's see how that looks. It could be raised up on the z-axis a bit more. Yeah, there we go. It's obviously not perfect, but this is just a simple cloth simulation to get you introduced to pinning objects, and creating collisions between other objects, and just hopefully this helps out in the future with any other cloth simulations. See you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will hopefully be posting a video every week now because I've gotten into Blender. So see you guys in the next Blender tutorial. Bye.